Welcome to my channel and welcome to the video where I will show you what I colored in April. Maybe let's start with travels of Mr. Fogarty. And Mr. Fogarty in April spent a very lovely evening in Paris. As usual, I used my Ohuhu markers to do the quick background. I really love colors which I selected, those shades of lavender, lilac and violet, perfect colors for spring evening sky. And I tried to do it very colorful with fresh green leaves, with tender flowers, very romantic, and I love that they have perfect coffee here with croissant. And Mr. Fogarty, as usual, is very fashionable. I looked at my old books and I realized that I miss doing something in Goddesses by Coco Vayo. Technique is the same as in Mr. Fogarty, because you know that here we have a very poor quality of paper, so usually when you combine markers and pencils, it helps to work on bad paper. Actually, here I used markers to do this quick sand color background and also columns. My favorite pencils on this paper is polychromoses, and I use them here for her skin, for beautiful wings. I am very happy with the colors which I selected for her jewelry, for her wings, and even for lotus flowers. Somehow the most difficult choice was how to color her dress. I already did at that time her wings, her headpiece, so everything was already very colorful. I'm glad that I decided to add only a very delicate light pink shading, again thanks to pastel shades of Ohuhu markers. I think that it looks very well balanced. True Egyptian style color palette, you know that they loved all those cobalt blue colors, colors of gold, and I tried to maintain this palette. And at least her dress, it looks elegant and simple. So I think my Isis, she looks very lovely, regal and in the same time very feminine, full of self-esteem. I really love how she is depicted here. One of the best pictures, I think, in the Egyptian part of the book. One day I simply wanted to relax, to color something totally mindlessly, so I decided that it's perfect moment to start Small Town Charm, book by Creative Heaven, which I received only recently. And it is this picture full of flowers, maybe even exaggerating amount of flowers. I think that maybe those huge roses which look like cabbages, it was too much. But I absolutely love these stairs. I enjoyed doing those bricks on the wall. And of course those lovely flower pots with hydrangea, with tulips, and central focal point, those rain boots. I think that it's very lovely elements. For me it was a moment just to mindlessly work with Prismacolor pencils, to use some of my favorite color combos for flowers, for bricks. So I'm glad that I started this book. I'm very happy that recently I started to work more with my Derwent Inktense and Derwent Graphitins. The first reason why I started to use them more frequently, that's because I received new colors to extend my Inktense palette, and second because I received a couple of books where I can use them, and paper allows me to work. Pictures are perfect for color palette of Inktense and Graphitins. For example, here in Urban Anna coloring book about shop fronts, sometimes I simply open book on a random page and I work on it as a challenge. Can I color this page only with Inktense and Graphitins? In April I decided that I can do this very spring page again, of course, I was attracted to those flowers in various shades of fuchsia, pink, magenta colors, all thanks to Inktense. And I also used graphitins and Inktense for the beautiful cafe, probably, or confectionery. Really a lot of yummy things which we can see here in the shop window. When I color, I try to learn better by Inktense or graphitins, especially colors which I don't use very frequently. Various shades of gray which were laying in their box for years, and finally I can learn them to look which ones are more on the warm side, which one on the cold side, to experiment blending them with blue or green blue colors. And of course, graphitins, I also try to use them for darker areas, and I use clear pigment, taking it from the pencil core for lighter areas, and directly on paper if I need those beautiful gray colors with hint of other color. Especially blue gray and green gray, they were extremely helpful. Here I also used Kohinoor Monteluz, so I think that maybe I need to extend my set of pencils for this book, because Monteluz, they are also very nice, very highly pigmented, vibrant, water-soluble pencils, but I don't use them frequently. Maybe this book is another chance for them to be used more frequently. I really love this effect which I have with water-soluble pencils. For me, it's easier to work with pencils rather than watercolors. I don't mind in such a way to copy the original art. I still think that I learned something, and I feel more in control with pencils rather than with watercolor, so I definitely intend to continue working in this book with the same art supplies. It really helps me to use the sets which I hadn't used for years. Another book where Inktense work really well. It's Amazon by Paul Brun. I also wanted to do something in fragile work, but unfortunately didn't have enough time in April, so maybe in May. Here I also selected pictures almost in random order. Where I opened book, I started to do that picture. Here we have this emerald snake, and thanks to variety of green colors in set of Inktense, I managed to color both leaves and snake. But for snake, I also used polychromos pencils. So it's a nice practice to combine both pencil brands. Sometimes I feel that I already did so many leaves with Prismacolors or with polychromos, so it's boring for me. But when I need to do leaves with something different, with Inktense for example, it's much more interesting. And what I'm concentrating currently, what I try to improve, to do not only simple green leaves, maybe gradient of light and darker green. No, if you look closer, you can see that I try to add additional color accents. A little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of reddish brown here. So leaves, I hope that in such way they look more three-dimensional, more interesting. Also dark sepia or indigo for shading beneath flowers and near branches. So again, I try to learn some new tricks. I think that pretty nice page. On the flowers, it's polychromoses. The only question for me is those butterflies. They are so dark and intense, so maybe they distracted attention from the boa emerald boa. But, well, maybe he's deliberately masking. I looked at reference pictures. Indeed, the snake has such vibrant green colors, so I tried to copy from the reference picture. It also was quite interesting. Another one where I used some of new Inktense colors, it was this beetle. Here we have those lovely orchids. I really love them. I looked at many orchids picture, and in the end I selected this interesting variety with yellow and pink and much more intense magenta central part. I think that it matches the rest of the leaves and beetle here. To support this pink color a little bit, I decided to add it also on the leaves. I think that it looks quite nice, and it's very nice and quick way to do background with intense several shades of turquoise blue, in aquamarine blue, and we have this very quick background. The beetle I did with polychromos pencils. I think that I will continue to work in this book with intense and polychromoses. For me it will be a very relaxed and enjoyable coloring. Of course, when true spring arrived, I wanted to color more and more flower pictures. Unfortunately, I didn't find in my stash nice Easter pictures, so this year I skipped Easter, so I concentrated on flowers. Let me show you what I did in Symphony of Cute Animals, all done with Prismacolors. I think that I somehow mastered how to use Prismacolors on this paper. Far from perfect, but totally possible to work. I did background and all the teacups and flowers and animals, all with Prismacolors. Lovely page. I am glad that I decided to divide those teacups into several color groups. I don't know which one is my favorite. Probably this one. I simply love the face of the bunny and those berries. Very lovely. Another one is slightly more questionable because it started with very strange background. I did love the color of the background, but I selected Kohinoor Monteluz, and I can say that they worked quite well here. Colors were not very intense, a little bit blotchy. I didn't manage to do nice gradient. When I started to cover areas which I didn't like with Prismacolor pencils, things didn't improve much. So things which I don't like here, it's hard border between cream, yellow and peach colors, not very good gradient. What I do love, how I actually did the rest. So apart from the background, I think that everything else is quite nice. I enjoyed doing cyclamen flowers and one solid tulip. It was interesting to color all those tiny vases for hyacinths. And of course, I do love to color crystals and glass bottles. That's one of my favorite things to color. So this part I really enjoyed. I was afraid that my tiny mice would be completely lost on such detailed and colorful page. So I decided that maybe a red ribbon will help us not to lose the only alive element of the page. Well, lovely, but I definitely don't intend to continue experiments with Kohinoor Monteluz. Maybe I don't know how to work with them. Maybe I applied too thin layer of pigment. Well, maybe I will continue to work with Prismacolors only. I did one background with watercolor, one background with water-soluble pencils, and you know, I spent a longer amount of time correcting areas which I don't like rather than saving time on such backgrounds. Usually with watercolor you can do quick background, but when you don't like it, you need twice longer time to correct areas which you dislike. Anyway, I'm happy that I have a lot of finished pictures in the end of my book and in the beginning of my book. Very interesting tendency. Now I need to concentrate on the middle part where we have a lot of summer pictures. Of course, now I want to color pictures in Leon's Journey, the newest adorable book by Kanoka, but I promised myself that I won't abandon this book and I won't abandon also Menuet de Bonheur. They are lovely and they also deserve to be colored. Speaking about Leon's journey, another very spring page. Let me show you. All done with Prismacolors. I much more prefer this paper comparing to paper in Symphony. So on this one, it was a pleasure to work with Prismacolors. And you know, it's probably the first time when I'm happy with my daffodils. Daffodils and Lily of the Valley, for me, two of the most complicated flowers, because they have difficult shape, and it's difficult for me to show shadows and in the same time to show how tender and transparent are their petals. I think that everything here works quite well. Well-balanced composition, interesting shades of greens. I tried to use probably the all green palette from Prismacolor pencils, more dark green on the dandelion leaves, more lime peel and other olive green colors for daffodils. So it was interesting study. I'm quite happy. Again, butterfly. I again used similar brown and red colors, so it looks quite intense. But well, somehow it's not so bad here. It matches the rest of the colors. I was afraid that chilling frog would be lost, but maybe it's for the best for the frog. He is not disturbed. He is hidden between dandelions and daffodils, and he is having peaceful, perfect time under the sun. I decided to add tiny sun here. I think that it was a nice touch for the background. When I tried to find pictures for Easter, the only one which I managed to find, which would be really interesting for me, it's page from Lady Spring. It's not exactly Easter, but at least the name of it is Pesk Flower, Easter flowers. I always love them. In our country they are rare because they weren't protected for some time, and of course they were picked in the forest. Now they are quite rare. They are very interesting because they have very lovely color, and also they are covered with very delicate white hairs, so quite unique for flowers. I decided that I want to do page with them. I already did once page with these flowers in Fragile World by Paul Brun, and I decided that I want to color them once again. The most challenging part for me here was the background. As usual, all pictures by Anna Marcinska, and this picture is from part of the book created by Anna Marcinska. She usually adds a lot of lines on the background which look like waves or swirls, and sometimes for me it's too much, too overwhelming. I don't know how to interpret them. So some of the lines I managed to hide, some of the lines I managed to use as a connection between the girl's dress and coat and swirls of the background. For the background I used watercolors. It's ultramarine and granulating grayish pink, something like this. I forgot the name. So it's a little bit of struggle with the background, and surprisingly what helped me with the background is to add very light peach halo with distress inks around the girl. When I added peach on top of purple and ultramarine, somehow it added very nice glowing area to the background, and everything started to work. Another area which puzzled me, it's those elves. For me they were excessive element. I think that I would prefer a page with only the girl and flowers, but I had those elves, so I tried to color them as much invisible as possible. The same Caput Mortuum colors which I used for the upper part of the girl's dress, I used for the elves, so I think that in the end composition looks quite well. I do love pictures by Anna Marcinska. For me it's always a challenge how to interpret them, how to use all the lines which she put on the background, but they always are so elegant and with fantasy Sam, so I think that she's definitely one of my favorite illustrators. And paper here is good, so I was able to experiment both with Inktense, with watercolors. So lovely book, not the easiest one. And somehow if I color here, I color only in the part of pictures where I have designs by Anna Marcinska. I seriously think about doing this tulip in May, when we still have springtime, and then the only one which I have, it will be the last one. Somehow I can't color in this book parts created by other illustrators. Maybe I need to somehow to look at them and maybe to try to do something. Book is lovely, but I use it only during springtime. It would be a pity that I can't do something in May. Well, I will try. Another spring Sam picture which I did, it's in Wildflower Folk. Of course, when I have heard that there will be 2 new books by Christine Karen in the end of summer, I think that somewhere in August, we were promised to have 2 new books, I decided that I need to color in Wildflower Folk more actively. So I selected spring page and I did it. It's a watercolor background. I also used stencil and a little bit of Distress Oxide to add those drops. Again, they served a little bit as a masking element in the areas where I wasn't particularly happy with gradients which I did with watercolors, but paper worked really well with watercolors, so I think that this intense blue-green colors, they emphasize tenderness of the girl's skin, her transparency of her wings, and also yellow daffodils. You know that I am not a big specialist in portraits, but here I was proud of myself how I colored her skin. It's just pencils, her blonde hair, her skin. When I finished, I said, wow, I did it. I am so proud of myself, how I managed to do it. There are, of course, the biggest reason why I love to do portraits here, it's because of paper. On this paper I can work with pencils to blend them without visible pencil strokes. I don't need to blend hard to apply delicate layers. It's not my strong side. I can use my usual technique, applying just 2 layers with regular force and regular pressure on pencil, and I still have nice, delicate, soft, even glowing skin. So I definitely think that this portrait will go into my list of favorite finished works for this year, and it's definitely one of my favorite works for April. And my final work, totally in different style, because it was made in Alliance Word by Kirby Razanes. I finished this spread. One picture I did in the beginning of the month. I really enjoyed it, even if in the beginning I had some doubts about which pencils to use. My book is Ukrainian edition, so I need to adjust a little bit to paper. Paper is thick, but I discovered that Prismacolors work not bad here, but they didn't give me enough vibrancy. So in the end, this central image I finished with polychromos pencils. Then again I switched to Prismacolors, and the best result I got when I used two brands together. Some colors were better from Prismacolor, some from Polychromos. And of course it also depends from the size of the element which I need to color. Anyway, I'm happy with the colors which I selected, and that we can read some kind of story. Here begins the journey of our astronaut. Despite this huge alien, I think that he managed to go through the secret passage, and he discovered this world, which part of it was damaged, maybe from some catastrophe, but beneath the water surface we already have some recreation, much more healthy atmosphere, a lot of greenery. That's what I tried to show on this picture. I deliberately used not very natural, even more wild, more dangerous colors for this upper part, which is still suffering from the ecological catastrophe, and much more natural, tender colors beneath the water surface. There were some areas of the background which confused me, some kind of rainbow which I didn't want to use. In the end, I added those lines. I think that it really created nice area, nice halo around this damaged city. Everything done with Prismacolor and Polychromos pencils and a little bit of white gouache. I thought about using paint for the background, but I decided that if I enjoy doing background only with pencils, I can spend a longer time but being more in control with pencils. So it wasn't very quick, but I really enjoyed every moment. And for me the most important is that this book isn't abandoned, and that during this year I managed to do 3 pages. Couple of months ago, this alien gladiators, and finally this spread. And you know, I want to continue. Somehow for me, this part where we have mix of the abandoned world, where we have pieces of abandoned machinery and also some pieces of alien creatures, alien plants. This mix for me is the most interesting part in the book. Those parts where we have fire or ice walls, they are also not bad, but I want to color in this book, and if I have time in May, I think that I will try to start this spread. Very detailed, very lovely, but I already have some ideas how I can color it. And for me it will be almost like a story, like this astronaut, he is traveling starting from this area, then through the area guarded by the alien to another world. Well, sorry. You know that when I color and if I enjoy a picture, I try to imagine story behind it. It really helps me to select colors, to imagine story behind it, and for me it's additional pleasure from coloring. So that was my April. I don't know about May. I think that I will do 1 or 2 mermaids, but I intend to continue working in Kerberosanes and of course in Kanoga Yagusa. And I also realized that I hadn't colored in Nelko Neko cats for a couple of months. I definitely intend to do something in May. Thank you for watching, and until the next videos.